This is Jefferson Black. In the studio, we have one of the most iconic actors in the history of television and motion pictures. The original Star Trek series, George, is it Takei or Takei?
Thank you, Jefferson. Yes, actually, it's neither. To pronounce it correctly, you'd have to be of Japanese descent.
Okay, fair enough. Tell us, first of all, Star Trek was so special, so iconic. Were there any anecdotes that we may not be aware of on the set that you could share?
Well, yes. Leonard Nimoy was the prankster on the set. On one episode, he actually spiked my coffee with sake. Things got a little crazy that day. I ended up giving a hickey to a Klingon.
Okay, I guess that didn't make it to the final cut.
No, Jefferson, it didn't.
Now, on a personal note, do you believe in UFOs?
Yes, I do. Unattached French organ grinders.
Okay. Let me ask you about Bill Shatner. Now, I know there's rumors that you and Bill, Bill says you guys are no friction between you, but...
Yes, well, let me tell you about that, Jefferson. Bill Shatner is very arrogant, and there was an episode called Mirror, Mirror, where we had different costumes and we played alternate characters in an alternate universe. And the evil twin that Bill played, the costume was a little strange, and their costume lady actually ended up accidentally shrinking it. And when Bill put it on, he looked a little pudgy in his spacesuit, and I made some comment off to the side, and he didn't take kindly to it, and we've been frenemies ever since.
Okay. Wasn't there another episode where...
Oh, yes, Jefferson, thank you for reminding me. The trouble with tribbles. You know, back in the 60s, everyone chain-smoked. It was normal. So the makeup lady, of course, was chain-smoking back in the dressing room and left her cigarette, and accidentally caught Bill Shatner's wig on fire. Now, Bill pretended that no one knew, but we all knew he wore a toupee. And in a frantic effort to not be embarrassed, Bill, for one scene, you can see it on YouTube somewhere, instead of a toupee, he's wearing a tribble on his head. He's wearing a tribble for a wig. Quite iconic footage, actually. And Bill and I, ever since these episodes, we've been frenemies ever since.
That's amazing. Now, let's talk about the finances of Star Trek. I know you made some money off the movies, which were great, but the actual TV show, how much did you make off of that?
Well, Jefferson, that's a little sore point for us. We were paid handsomely at the time for the first initial run, which was 3 episodes and 1 rerun. But after that, I've actually, since you gave me a sandwich, and thank you, by the way, for the Perrier and the sandwich, I've made more money off your podcast than I made off Star Trek in the last several decades.
Now, you had a famous line. Give us your famous line.
Warp Factor 4, Captain.
Okay, great. Now, did you come up with that? Was that an ad-lib on the set, or is that in the script?
Well, actually, funny that you would mention that, because the original line was, overdrive, let's switch to 5th gear. And I said, Gene, this is a space opera. Sulu would say something like, Warp Factor 4, Captain. So I take full credit for that. Gene claims that he created that, but actually, I'm going to write a book about this, actually, Jefferson. I was kind of blackmailed back in the 60s before people came out of the closet. Gene knew about me, and he threatened to out me, so to speak, because I actually created Star Trek. All the characters, I take full credit for pretty much everything on the show, including the Vulcans and everything. And Gene, he didn't want to give me credit. He wanted to take full credit, so he threatened to out me. So I know this is controversial and it's never come out before. Now, things were different back then. The closet was very cozy in the 60s. It was very warm in there, and it wasn't, didn't want to come out of it back then, like now. So and he said, well, let's just make Sulu a gay character, and I don't think Sulu was ready to be gay back then. Nowadays, perhaps. Star Trek in the 60s, America was not ready for a gay Sulu. A gay Romulan, maybe, a gay Klingon, perhaps, but no gay Vulcans and no gay Starfleet officers. So, yeah, I take full credit for Star Trek. Very controversial, but true.
That's pretty amazing news, so they'll have to look into that. So, you've done a lot in your life. You've been a TV star. You were even on the old Twilight Zone episodes. But are there any goals that you have not reached that you'd love to reach?
Yes, Jefferson. As a matter of fact, I would love to be knighted by the Queen. I don't know why. It just sounds like a goal I would like to reach.
Okay, George, let's say you got your wish. Let's say a fairy godmother came down and granted you...
Oh, Jefferson, fairy godmother, is that a dig to the LGBT community?
No. Okay, let's scratch that. Let's say a genie popped out of a bottle.
Oh, I like genies.
A genie popped out of a bottle and granted you your wish, you're knighted. What would you do?
Well, the first thing I would do is I would grab my saber. You know that in one episode, Sulu had a saber and was sword fighting. And then I would look at the lineage in England and see how far down the lineage I was to being ruler. Much in the way a Shakespeare character would execute all those in his way or her way, to become king or queen. So I would see how far down in the lineage I was, and then I'd take my saber and I would just start eliminating one by one, executing everyone in the line to become the next king or queen, as it were, of England.
Oh, wow, that's an amazing fantasy or goal, I guess. I don't know if that will ever happen for you, but that's pretty interesting. I know you're a big activist and that your family was in an American concentration camp in World War II, and I know you've done some amazing things for the gay community and for the Japanese community. George, why don't you leave us with your famous line from this Star Trek series?
Warp Factor 4, Captain. Warp Factor 4, Captain.
All right, thank you, George Takei. This is Jefferson Black signing off. You've enjoyed this podcast, hopefully half as much as I've enjoyed doing it. Toodaloo. The Jefferson Black Podcast Show.